All right. Welcome, Dan. Well, that was a wild conversation this morning. We kind of were all over the map, but some good stuff in there. We talked about aliens a bit, and I think we got a bit of everything in there.
Yeah, no, aliens to ethics, right? That's what I'd call this episode, and it everything. Well, not everything, but there's a lot of gray area out there, and we talked a little bit about how to navigate it and what's the right thing to do out there, and some of our tactics that you can, the things that you can do to kind of put that on your side and keep things on the up and up. So I enjoyed this podcast.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah, you had a bunch of good tips in there. So yeah, thanks for joining me. And we just want to thank a couple sponsors here, and we'll get into the podcast. So yeah, I want to thank Cutter Stabilizers, Earl Stroll. We love these small companies. He started this out of his garage. He's been able to build it into a legit business, and he just builds like really good products. Like he's always evolving them, testing them in the field, making sure that they're going to hold up to all the abuse we put them through. So stabilizers, weights, sidebar bracket. He also has a new quiver that he came out with. He's coming out with a new 6-arrow quiver as well that I can't wait to see. So yeah, check out everything he's putting out there at Cutter Stabilizers. They do a great job.
Yeah, yeah, hard to beat quality product. I like how sleek those stabilizers are. The wind isn't catching them. The weight's in the right place. The construction is top of the line. And once again, small company, American made. It doesn't get much better.
Nope. Nope, that's it. Yeah, thanks to Cutter for their support. Also, thanks to On Glass. I bet you've been getting some good phone scoping this year, Dan.
Lots of phone scoping with that on glass system. I really like it. Here's my tab on my phone for those of you guys that are watching the video, but super simple, streamlined, goes on your normal phone case, and there's no lining anything up. It's slap it on your spotter and go and get that footage that you need without like focusing on putting your phone on the actual spotter. So I enjoy that. I like that. And it doesn't cover up your phone flashlight, which I took that for granted how much I use my phone flashlight in the past.
Yeah, construction guy constantly using my flashlight. But yeah, it is so nice. It's so nice it sits on your case that I don't got to pull my phone out of my case. It's so nice that it like naturally aligns every time that I don't got to mess with the alignment, because it's weird through a scope in your camera. You actually have to go the opposite way that you see the black ring, and my brain just can't make sense of that. So like you don't even have to worry about it. The on glass just lines up perfectly every time. Easy to capture videos, capture photos of the critters you're seeing, and which really helps with field judging later on. And it creates a memory. It's great to capture some of those encounters with those critters. So yeah, thanks to those guys for their support. Great product on glass. And then also our buddy Travis Nowotny, Goat Knives. We just want to make sure you guys get in on that giveaway. We'll make a new post here coming up. We're giving one of those knives away a month, and just great replaceable blade knives. They also have a fixed blade that's really good, and just great products. And we really appreciate him giving it to us to be able to give to you guys on the giveaway. So we'll make a post. You just have to follow Goat Knives and Eastman's Life of a Bow Hunter, and then we'll have you send it in the comments, and you'll be entered in. So yeah, good stuff, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you nailed it. Check out all the other things that we're doing here at Eastman's, from the other podcasts, the Eastman's Hunting Journals podcast that Ike hosts. Of course, Eastman's Elevated with the one and only. And yeah, the collectives, right? Elk and Deer Collective, those are still going. We're giving away a knife with that. So make sure you check out the Deer and the Elk Collective on eastmans.com.
Yeah, good job on those hunt breakdowns, Dan. Those things are so cool. It's just such a great learning tool. So we actually go through some hunts that we released on Eastman's Hunting Journal's YouTube, and then we do commentary and we break them down. And it gives you some insight into what we're thinking, what our strategy was, some of the things that you don't get on just watching the video. But those hunt breakdowns, I think, are a great learning tool, and you uploaded a bunch of those to the Deer Collective, Elk Collective. I think those are great, Dan.
Yeah, just always trying to come up with new content to add, to keep things fresh, to keep guys fed with new stuff that is really going to just shorten that learning curve for guys. And in my opinion, that's firsthand experience. It's the encounters, it's the stocks, what worked, what didn't, with a video presentation to go along with it. I'm a hands-on learner, a visual learner, and I think probably most men are, for the most part, and ladies too. This is not just for the men, but yeah, it's just going to help you learn quicker if you can just get more stocks and experiences under your belt, and in this way you can do it virtually. So it's very good information.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have a Eastmans bundle membership right now where you can bundle everything that we do, one price, and we're also giving away an Everly stock Recon Bino harness with that. So take advantage of that.
Yep, Eastmans.com.
Yep. So what was it? Aliens to Ethics? I like that. I got to write that down for a title. So yeah, let's get into it, Dan. It's a good podcast.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
All right. Well, welcome, Dan. You got to set up from scratch every time over there. Make sure you don't forget to plug something in, huh?
Yeah, that's right. Make sure we're loud and clear. Usually technology's technology. So it works when it works, and when it doesn't, you're scratching your head.
Yeah, it's worked pretty good for us lately. We haven't really had any hiccups, but knock on wood, just when you don't expect any, you get humbled for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're got our program here. So yeah, we're running smooth.
Yeah, that's it. Well, yeah, man, you're probably getting ready for your hunt. Did you go on that mule deer hunt last week with your buddy?
Yeah. Dude, I don't know what it is this year. Probably the most unique year I've ever been a part of, just with hunts and my own hunts. And it seems like, all my own hunts went very smoothly, very timely, very quick, other than that darn antelope. But all my buddies' hunts have just been pull your hair out nightmares. And maybe not nightmares, I should say that, but just pull your hair out. Just nothing's working. Not seeing mature animals, not putting anything on the ground, not getting anything in the glass even. And that's how this hunt was. And this is, and I was thinking about this on the drive home. We should talk about it, and in a case like this, because I'm not going to ruin anything, because it wasn't worth it anyway. But my buddy, he spent 16 points on Area 141 in Wyoming in the Green River, and dude, it was dismal. It was dismal. And you know me, I put in the homework, I talked to the people, I have resources that I've talked to, and the mature deer just weren't there. And maybe the weather didn't help. We did get snow, but he's calling me right now. Actually, I can't answer it, but hopefully he said, "Big buck down." Today's the last day of the season down there, and I had to leave early to get home. But just the lack of mature deer. And that's kind of been the status quo in most units in Wyoming. When guys ask me, I want to burn my points in Wyoming for deer, what do I do? And I just tell them, wait and keep building points, because it's just not there yet. And don't get me wrong, there's diamonds in the rough. There's big bucks in every unit that do pop up, but it's still, those are the exception. The rule is that deer is just so tough in Wyoming right now.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, you're welcome to answer that. We can hit pause too if you want the report. We can break it live on the show.
Maybe I will. Let me just
Cool.
Call him back real quick.
Yeah, do it.
I know he said he was going to move spots, and we have been seeing deer. Now he won't answer. He must be out of service.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, there's no shortage of challenges. It seems like I really had a challenging season, and my problem wasn't finding them, it was getting them killed and kind of where they were at, and capitalizing on opportunities. But yeah, it's you're never quite sure what the challenges are going to be, but you spend those kind of points in that kind of tag, you expect that you're going to find some pretty good hunting, especially if you build a good hunt plan, You incorporate Dan Pickar into your hunt plan. He checks with his buddies. Like you really feel like you're going to have some good opportunity. But the realization is like it is all a gamble. And I have my theories and thoughts of how spots are going to be, and definitely some good theories coming into this season. And we'll see. I'm going to execute to the best of my abilities, and hopefully my theories pan out. But they don't always, So, yeah, man, that's tough, especially when you're spending so much time and effort, and you do have a good hunt plan, and you do have a really good tag, and you think you could turn up a big shooter in there. But it's also the toughest time of year you're hunting them as well. And even though you got some weather, maybe the weather didn't push down the big ones, or maybe the big ones weren't to their rutting grounds yet, or there's so many factors that can go into it. So all you can do is make your best game plan and go hunt hard and enjoy it. And I thought about this too. We've said it. Go ahead.
Hey, what you got? Did you whack one? Oh, you passed them? Oh, yeah. Yep. Are you serious? Okay. Let me look. I'm on this podcast, but I'll look when I'm done. Okay. Okay. All right. All right. I'll look. You bet. See it. Didn't get one.
Oh, I thought that was going to be the information that he whacked one. That's
what I was hoping for too. I mean, like you said, I mean, you nailed it. As far as these migration hunts are a gamble, and we got weather, we got snow, we got cold, and we got to push a deer. Absolutely, we did. We saw some deer, and we saw young bucks, and we just didn't see anything that was north of 175. The biggest buck we saw was mid 160s, and it was one deer, and the rest that we saw were much smaller than that. And so, yeah, these migration hunts, they're tough. We could have knocked out of the park and got 2 foot of snow and had a huge push of deer. And while we did see a push of deer, we lost our snow in 2 days because it warmed back up, and clearly the migration stopped after that. We did have 2 days of good numbers, but still, it's just a head scratcher. There should be a mature buck here or there, but once again, like I said, it's tough dates, October dates. They're traveling from the high country towards their the summer grounds, the transitioning grounds, and then down into the red desert for the rut. And so there's a lot going on there with what these mule deer have to do to get from point A to point B. And once again, the conditions and then the timing, of course, is so key. But yeah, it's one of those things that it is a gamble, and if you do have the points and you want to hunt, you just have to decide if it's worth the gamble for you or not. So, yeah, disappointing, but what do you do? Hunting's hunting, right? We talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why it's so special when you do kill a really good one, I went on a few-day rip spot I was super excited about, and so I've been developing this spot the last couple years. Last year I saw like 5 shooters in there. I saw one with a hook cheater. I saw some good framed heavy bucks in there. And so I thought this year the strategy is to get in there before rifle season, before the Orange Army kind of chases them around general season Montana. So I teamed up with my buddy Dylan Ness, and we went for a few-day rip just to sufferfest of miles and elevation to get way back into this backcountry where we believe they were. And some strange conditions in this place this year. I guess they had like a huge hailstorm that kind of wiped out all the grasses and crops like in some of these locations. And so, man, it was really weird. It was like, saw so many deer, which I expected, but saw like 200, 250 deer on public ground, saw probably 40 different bucks, but I don't know where the older age class was. It just wasn't there. It was like, every buck was a 1 to 3 year old, and then saw some weird stuff in there, but we did turn up one shooter. Dylan got a chance at one big shooter. That's, probably the biggest deer I've seen in Montana the last few seasons. So we did turn up one in there. So that was a success, other than he didn't harvest it. And Dylan's so clutch with that bow, man. He's gosh, he's got an 80-inch antelope this year and a 340 bull, and he's done really good. And that would have been, probably 180-inch mule deer. So, but he got into range of it. He was by himself. We bedded him down, made a great play on it, and Buck stood up, didn't know he was there, kind of looked away, drew back, settled his pin, and man, I saw that buck just react funny and like run at him, and I was going, what in the heck is going on? And I guess I got the story there, and we had gone through a big rainstorm that morning. It had poured on us, and yeah, his fletching tore off from the front, was like a parachute. He hit about 20 yards short of that buck. It was like, man, the devil's in the details. And we all look at our arrows, and he noctunes every one of his arrows. He bare shafts, like he goes through the process, and then to have a fletching tear loose or whatever. So he was just crushed, But yeah, if it can go wrong, it will, And anyways, we weren't able to relocate that buck. I would have got to play at that buck. We would have found him again, but yeah, he just disappeared like big bucks do. So we did find one in there. So our theory holds true, but we didn't see the 5 or 6 shooters, or we definitely didn't see that age class. And like you say, it's just strange. Are they going to show up during the rut, or are they gone out of that area? Do you, so like now we're on to the next working theory. We thought it would be bow season getting in there early. Now it's like, okay, well, I guess you got to get in during the rut and let all those bucks from all the surrounding areas show up there. Or maybe it was the crop damage from the hail, and the grass isn't the same in there this year. Who knows? And we did run into one really strange deal. Like, man, it was pretty wild. Like, all of a sudden we've got helicopters buzzing around and chasing deer and flying low, and there's 2 of them, and they're just like circling around and going, what in the heck is going on? And then all of a sudden we catch we can see a road way off in the distance, and we catch like a police and escort in the front, and like all these military vehicles, and then like a huge box truck like moving a nuke out there, and the 2 helicopters are just circling this deal, and this whole like a bunch of rigs driving in front, behind, cops in the front and in the behind, like probably moving like a nuke or something. And then the helicopter flew down the canyon like right at us, and like came up like so low, like 100 feet off the deck, like down below us. I got video of it, like flying right at us, like the military was coming after you in an area, and there was like gunners in the side position of the helicopter. They chased some deer around. There's just some does and smaller bucks. It wasn't that big a deal, but it was like, holy cow, what's going on here? But that was kind of a strange situation.
Whoa, that's wild, dude. So
yeah,
it probably was a nuke or something that they were.
Yeah, I think so. There's a bunch of missile sites up there in different areas around Montana and different places where they actually have underground silos, and you're not sure what they have down in there. But yeah, they were moving something major for the federal government to have 2 helicopters that are circling nonstop in all the surrounding areas. And then to have, 10 or 12 military vehicles, couple cops in front, couple cops in back, moving down a gravel road where there's no there's like no traffic or nobody there. It was like kind of weird. So yeah, they were moving something important for sure.
Jeez, got to have those 2 choppers to make sure the mule deer aren't going to invade the silo site and camper with the nuke. Good grief.
It's pretty wild when it was flying at you. You're like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen here? But yeah, no, it's pretty wild.
So were you hiding in that scenario, or are you giving the middle finger? What was your plan? I mean, you don't want to be seen, or does it matter? I mean, what was going through your head?
Yeah, just sat there and just watched him come down. We were sitting on the vantage point, no orange. It wasn't rifle season, so we're sitting in camo, and they're flying down. And at first, it's like no big deal, but then he's flying like right at us, And so I almost thought of like getting over the hillside just so he didn't like run into us or get so close to us with the chopper. So I wasn't worried about him seeing us, or we were definitely where we were supposed to be, but it was a little strange and unnerving when he was flying right at us like that, and then turned the side ship, and there's just a bunch of gunners in the side with like military guns on the side. I was like, holy geez, what is going on here? But yeah, it was a little unnerving when he flew so close to us and flew below us. I wasn't sure what was going on, but just a little confusion and a little bit unnerving. But yeah, we just sat there and watched him come by, took some video of him. That was it.
Wow. Wow, that's crazy. I've seen like planes, and I've seen one of those B-2 bombers flying low in eastern Montana. It's been several years ago. I don't know what they were doing playing around out there or whatnot, but yeah, there's some strange things that go on in eastern Montana. I can tell you that, military wise, some strange things.
Oh, I had this one time. I was in Utah hunting, and I was hunting a location, and this was like, I think this is like 2013. Like drones weren't real big back then, and I had a military drone, like, and it was a big one, like the size of an airplane, like a 15-foot wingspan, like come up and like was training on me, like hovered above me and like shot video, got super close to me. Like it was guys training in the mountains, and it was like a drone from 2013 when you don't like we didn't even realize the drone capabilities or technology, and this thing was super advanced. But yeah, they were like training in the mountains, like picked me up in camo, like came down and hovered over me with this drone deal that was just this huge military drone. I think they were doing training or something.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, that was kind
So,
of weird.
so, like it wasn't a predator drone like the airplane style. It was like a hover drone, like a big one.
It was an airplane style, but it hovered.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. If I
Wow.
remember correctly, like it's been quite a few years, but I remember it hovered above me. So it was like a military plane style drone, but it was able to hover somehow. It didn't have the propellers like the drones we see or anything. It just looked like a plane, but then it stopped and hovered. And I think they were training on me or something.
Wow.
It was kind
That's
of a weird
crazy.
one. Yeah.
At that point, you're like, okay, yeah, do I tuck and roll, or do I take off running, or I just hide, or that thing has thermals, you're not going to run from that thing.
No, no, I would hate to have our military after us, but there is some weird things you see in the mountains. Some of the military planes training, like you were talking about the bomber coming over you, some of the fighter jets you see in different places that are breaking the sound barrier or flying really low, like dangerously low. Like sometimes you just see some weird stuff out there.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Never know when the Black Hawk helicopter is going to land on somebody's property and pick up some sheds too. Remember that story? Those National Guard guys that they did last year.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, yeah. It is
Yeah,
like a battle zone here.
well, and I got a video from like a buddy of some like paranormal lights as well. Like you always think if you're gonna see something, or I remember Elon Musk's satellites when they first started coming over was like weird to see out there. But yeah, I don't know that I've had any paranormal, but I did have a video a buddy sent to me. It just like these lights where there weren't supposed to be lights, and I couldn't really make sense of it of a video in the dark or anything. But he was pretty freaked out that he saw something out there. You do see some weird stuff when you're out hunting. You never know what you're gonna run into.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I got taken down one time. Like this was a weird one. So I was hunting unlimited sheep. So this has got to be 20 some years ago. And I'm hunting unlimited sheep, and it's on the park boundary, Yellowstone National Park boundary. And I'm going to meet one of my buddies in there 3 or 4 days in the hunt, and he's going to come help me. And so we're going to meet at this lake. And we set the meeting place, and the lake is actually in the park. So you can't hunt in the park. Like I know that you can't cross into the park or anything. So like I drop all my weapons and all my stuff outside where I'm camping outside the park. And then I'm going to walk into this lake, and I'm going to use it to refill my water because there isn't much water up there at 10,000 feet. And I'm going to use it to fill my water up there in the lake. And I'm going to meet my buddy, and then we'll continue to hunt. And I didn't have cell service at the time. Like I say, it was 20 years ago. I don't even know if I had a cell phone on me, but we had made this plan to meet there. So I dropped my weapon, which was my bow, and I think I had my pistol on me. It was bear country, and dropped that at my camp outside the park. And then I go in with pretty much nothing but my water filter and my bladder. I fill up my water. I wait for my buddy. He doesn't show up. Something came up and he didn't end up meeting me in there. So then I'm hiking out of the park back in, and you can go inside that park. You just can't bring weapons or can't be hunting or anything. And all of a sudden, two guys jump out of the brush with like black rifles on me and say, "Get down, get on the ground," like yelling at me. And I'm like 10 or 15 miles back in the backcountry. And all of a sudden, like I'm having to lay down in the dirt, and they're like putting my hands behind my back and like asking if I've got weapons on me. And like all of a sudden I'm getting interrogated by these two guys, and they were just basically what they're doing is they're sitting on the park line and they're waiting for hunters to cross that park line so they can bust them. So they're like camping up there and they're like pretending they're military, like all just camoed in, and they've got their assault rifles back there. And basically when a hunter crosses, they bust him and they confiscate his rifle and give him a huge ticket for hunting inside the park. So that's what they're doing, is they're guarding that park line. And I'm sure that's not, I mean, I kind of feel like that's their purpose. I'm sure it's to bust people from hunting inside the park after sheep, for sure. That is their purpose. But it's almost like they get bored up there for a few days and like they want to catch somebody doing something wrong. But yeah, I hadn't done anything wrong. Of course, I left my weapons outside. But yeah, they were just like watching me the whole time, walk down to that lake, like camoed in with their rifles, probably had scopes on me, and they pointed their rifles at me. Took me down. I had no weapons or whatever. They walked me outside or escorted me to the outside of the park. And I was like, yeah, man, I know the rules. I didn't bring any weapons in. I was meeting a buddy and grabbing some water. But yeah, so it was like a surprise. I hadn't talked to anybody in about 4 days or something, you know, and that was my first human interaction, was being taken down with military rifles in the park.
That's the stuff. I mean, we joke that, like, the park, it's Gestapo land, or it's their own country, because it really is, and they treat it as such, like it's their own private country. And of course they charge what they want for admission, and have their own rules and whatnot. And I know that they patrol that stuff constantly. And it's almost like 20 years ago it was more prevalent with guys that were like pushing the boundaries and like hunting inside the park, or having these issues. And I can think of one in particular, a local guy here in Cody. They were elk hunting up there right on the park boundary, and he was with his buddy. He was hunting with his buddy, and they split up for the day. And his buddy came back to camp. They got back to camp, and his buddy's like, "Oh yeah, I got a bull." He's like, "Oh really?" And he's like, yeah. He's like, "It's right down here." And so they left camp and then walked down there. And he's like, "Dude, we're in the park. Like, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, what? I thought it was the other ridge." And this is before like OnX or anything. And, they have signs and whatnot that's posted on the boundaries on every other tree, or every 100 yards, or whatever it is. They put them up in 1978, and they may or may not still be up there. And so I could see how the mistake could happen, but he, made a mistake, and he shot a bull inside the park. And by that night, they had a helicopter landing, and they arrested the guy and they had footage of him, thermal footage of them inside the park as proof. And then they found the elk, and his hunting buddy had to basically pack their camp out all the way back out to the trailhead, 16 miles, 14 miles, whatever it was, and escorted the whole way with parkies, with law enforcement waiting for him at the truck, and confiscated all their stuff. And like, it was a huge deal back then, and they weren't trying to get away with anything really. They just made an honest mistake. But it was like you were dealing with the KGB, and they were on them, and like arrested the one guy via helicopter, and off they went. And he's like, "Oh, okay, my buddy just got arrested and taken away in a Black Hawk helicopter. So I guess, yeah, what do I do now?" So it's something you don't want to play with. Like you said, you don't bring a weapon in there. Yeah, you can't bring a bow into the park. Yeah, because they take it very seriously. And obviously it's happened though before in the past, in the 90s and in the 80s even. I remember stories of guys, going in there and poaching and whatnot. But yeah, they take it very seriously.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and you have to be careful on those hunts that border the park. I remember this is a couple days later, I glassed up, and there's this pinch point there on the park where you can run the ridge line, and the law states it's how water runs off the ridge line. One side is the park, the other side is national forest. And if you run that ridge line, it actually cliffs out up on the top where you can't go through national forest. You are standing on the park. And I glassed 2 or 3 guys that were hiding up there, the same with rifles or whatever, waiting for guys to make this mistake. And you had to drop 1,500 feet elevation. I know that because I had to drop the elevation to keep on the right side of the law before I knew anybody was up there, anybody was watching. I just knew I couldn't get by those cliffs or got to them. And so I had to drop all that elevation and go down. But yeah, they were waiting for guys to make a mistake. And yeah, it's tough. Like out there, you can run into some weird situations, but it's the same thing with private and public and things. Like, man, a lot of times the right decision, it hurts. You got to go through a lot of elevation loss and things to keep on the right side, of the line, to make sure you're doing things the right way. But that's also how you access remote country, is like by going to those really difficult spots. And the next spot I'm going to go into is an amazing spot. And it's just connected by a sliver of public where you really got to watch your on-X to get through it. And then once you get through it, it opens up to a lot of public land, and you got to walk long distances and you got to go through a bunch of canyons and coulees. But once it opens up, these bucks like get in there and it's a refuge for them and kind of where they pre-rut. And I know some of the biggest bucks and bulls come from these sleeper spots, this like just a state land piece that borders. And in today's day and age, a lot of times if you go into the middle of the national forest during general rifle season in Montana, there's no deer in there left. So you kind of got to hunt the borders of these places and look for crossing animals. And it's within our right to hunt public land and stuff that we can access. And then, you have to kind of look for these spots, but a lot of times it's just a little block of state land that then opens up to a bigger chunk of state land, or like a land bridge, like this spot that I'm talking about that I have to get through. And then it opens up into a bunch of country that I can hunt. I have to hike a lot of miles, but a lot of times thinking outside the box like that can really get you to some good locations to hunt.
Absolutely. And that is the name of the game nowadays. And it does take some of the fun out of it, for me, and talking to buddies with the land game, just because, yeah, specifically in Montana, a buddy called me and he's from Minnesota, and he's like, yeah, I'm hunting Montana and generals. And he's like, you got any tips? And I was like, well, by this time of the year, most of the animals are pushed onto private. And so you're in the public private interface is the game that you have to play now. And there's a whole nother level of ethics that you have to deal with that, like a buffer zone, of how close do you actually hunt to the line, especially if you're bow hunting. You got to give yourself a buffer, because if you shoot an animal and it goes and dies on private, then that opens a whole can of worms, and a can of worms that me personally I don't want to deal with, because not only you're in the public eye a little bit, and then you have to deal with an animal that's dead on private, and then you get questioned probably to another degree of prove where this animal was, because we're out there filming or whatever. So it's just one of those things that I do not cut corners on that and have that buffer. I like a 400-yard buffer, which is kind of a ways. And of course, rifle hunting, you can be a little bit closer. And I've been on hunts where with buddies, and basically watched them cross the boundary, and there's a fence there, and that's the public private boundary, and you're within 100 yards, and you better shoot that thing in the neck and drop him right there, because you just can't gamble with where that buck or bull's going to die. So it's a whole nother level of stress, isn't it, a little bit? But I think if you hunt right, and you're proficient on onX, and you're really studying the maps, it's kind of the name of the game nowadays, I feel like, especially in Montana, just with where the animals are and the pressure and whatnot during the general season.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I don't like playing the private public game, but yeah, sometimes that's where the animals are and where you have to play it. I do like your buffer zone. I don't quite give myself 400 yards, but I probably need to extend mine a little bit. Yeah, that's probably a pretty good rule of thumb, just so then it takes the stress out of the situation. It's like if you hit them right, you're going to get them, because yeah, I mean, you can call the landowner, you can call the warden, but it just opens a whole nother can of worms I don't want to deal with. So yeah, you're right. And I like animals that are living naturally in their habitat. And so like if I can find mule deer that are just living in sagebrush, and in the same breath, you talk about Montana, and there's a lot of elk that show up low and on private, and they get, everybody's trying to hunt these borders and hunt these elk. And I actually don't pay any attention to them. Maybe it's because I have more knowledge of the area, but I know they're also coming down on public land in different spots and on faces on different spots where I don't have to deal with any border. And so, including this year, there's like a lot of elk and a lot of good bulls that drop down onto this private, and people are playing the state land and playing these pieces and borders there. And the elk, they kind of know where those borders are at because there is so much pressure on them. But I know other areas where the elk drop that are totally public, and those are the areas that I focus on. And in October, there's nobody in those zones. The private elk kind of absorb all the pressure. And same thing with mule deer. It's like mule deer in an alfalfa field or in some ag totally get all the attention, but there's also bucks that are rutting these does that come off those things, or that are just running the sagebrush that you never see in that ag as well. And so, yeah, I'm with you, Dan. Like sometimes you got to play the game, and I love just hunting all public where I've got no borders. But in today's day and age, a lot of the spots I'm hunting, I do have boundaries and I do have borders, but I'm trying not to hunt, right on the edge of that border, hunt them coming off that ag. Like I'm disappearing in the middle of that public in a chunk or in a section, or a couple sections of public that I can kind of hunt and spread out and give myself a little bit of buffer and then enjoy my experience in there. And what kind of chaps you is when you're hunting those zones, like, this zone that I'm going to go into, it has a couple roads that nobody public can access. But all of a sudden, you'll have a guide or an outfitter, you'll have a landowner that then will drive this road that nobody else can drive, and they're driving actually on our state or on our national forest lands. Where they're the only people that have access. And it's like, if nobody else can drive it, they shouldn't be able to drive it too. And then you'll run into landowners and false marked orange, and like, man, it's a tough landscape to navigate during some of these seasons. I've had a landowner run me off an access road before that accesses a bunch of public land in there. I had apologized. I didn't have the map that showed the road access to the guy. I said, sorry, I'm not trying to do anything wrong. I thought this was an access road. And I went home and checked it. It was an access road like I thought. And so I called the warden, but then the warden just told me to go out there and have that landowner call him if he had any issues. But yeah, you'll run into false orange, you'll run into locked gates, and it's tough to figure out which roads you can actually drive and you can't. That's a huge gray area, which roads are actually access roads. And you'll even see Forest Service roads that'll be closed down or gated off that you can't access, but it shows on your map you can, so man, it's a real gray area and tough to navigate sometimes as private public and trying to hunt these zones.
Hey, man, that's such a good point. And you get on X, and it's not like it's not the law, right? Like on X, most of the stuff, it's pretty good. And open road maps, whether it's dirt bike or ATV, under 50 inches, off road, whatever. So it's pretty accurate. But yeah, it will show stuff on there that doesn't exist, and you find out the hard way. And stuff like that, like you said, there's all these factors, with landowners, falsely marking stuff and trying to keep the public out of stuff. And that's why that's a good point of being in contact with the game warden. And what I do all the time too, and if you have access to internet, you're in cell service, get on your phone and look up the cadastral. So like, wherever you're at, Sublette County Cadastral or Park County Cadastral, and you can get onto the map server and it'll show you all the public right of ways and the distances of them. Like, where does it end? And does it actually reach that portion of public? Takes all the guesswork out. You still might have to deal with a landowner, but it does take all the guesswork out and show a landowner that. And I've done that before too. Get on the cadastral and be like, the cadastral doesn't lie. This is a county cadastral, and it shows that this is an easement. It is a public road. And so that's a huge tool to have. So out of today, if you bring anything out of this podcast, make sure you're familiar with the county cadastral in the area that you're hunting if you're in the private public interface, because that is a game changer. And then being in contact with the game wardens, that's so huge. Like around here, playing the public private game and hunting with buddies, whether we're cow elk hunting or whatever, just being in contact with the game warden, and you get a lot of information from him. For example, recently hunting, and he was like, well, I kind of told him what we were doing, and he's like, I know this ranch doesn't allow access, but this ranch does, and he's like, and actually, like, if you kill a bull, whether you shoot it on public, make sure you can prove it, but if it dies on private, like, they will let you go get it. And so that changes the game. If you know that by talking to the game warden, that game warden is in firsthand contact with that landowner. And in this case, I was able to get the cell phone number of the landowner or the manager, the ranch manager in this case. And I called him and I was like, hey, this is what we're doing. Just to let you know, like, I'm not here to try to cheat anything or take any shortcuts and try to shoot a bull on private or anything, but just letting you know, we're hunting in this area, and I just wanted to check with you, like, if it is a feasible option, if we shoot it on public and it happens to die on private, if we can go get it. And you got that verbal confirmation, and that changes the game, because then in a case like that, my buffer zone to that private is going to change. Like, I would hunt a little bit closer to that private if you have that luxury of recovering an animal on private. And to go with that, this year my stepboy Blake, he had an elk tag, and he shot a great bull. We called it into 30 yards. He had a rifle. He shot it at 40 yards. Epic experience. We were about 60 yards from the private boundary on the fence there. We were in between the bull and the fence, and so we had that to our advantage, and we're rifle hunting. He dropped the bull. It was great. But the pack out was about a mile, and it was up one canyon, down another, a few times. It was rough-ish for the type of terrain to pack a bull elk at 4 trips later. And so I called the ranch, the manager, and I was like, hey, this is what we got going. I'll send you a pin on where we're at. Can we pack this elk out down to the highway across the ranch? And, he's like, well, you don't want to drive in there or anything. And I was like, no, I just want to walk across. It's 600 yards if we can just walk down the ridge to the highway across the ranch. And he's like, yeah, I don't see a problem with that. And so just that right there, I mean, did we have to do that? No, but it made our life a lot easier. And so the caveat to this, and which not only as hunters, but if you're in the spotlight and you're out there hunting and you're filming. We weren't filming this hunt. Well, we were filming that hunt, but we the problem is if somebody sees you on that private, they're probably going to turn you in. They're going to call the game warden and be like, hey, there's somebody out there, packing an elk down across the ranch down to the highway. And it's pretty common knowledge that this ranch doesn't allow any hunting. It doesn't allow public access for the most part. And so you got to take it a step farther. So I called the game warden too. And I was like, just letting you know, we got permission from the ranch manager to pack Blake's elk out. And, just so if somebody calls you, that's what we're doing. And so you got to take another step, so you're not getting heckled by a game warden too. And then on top of it, like, you still try not to be seen, right? Even though you're doing nothing wrong, you want to alleviate a potential confrontation. Like, nobody likes to have a confrontation out there. And so this is the trade-offs, right? That you have to factor in. Like, is it worth it? Is it worth being seen from the highway, packing this elk out across private for the potential confrontation with Joe Schmo that thinks they're the authority out there, and they're going to try to run you off? And so there's all these little factors that weigh in of like, okay, maybe we should just pack this thing out the hard way and just stay out of sight of the highway, so you don't have that confrontation. And so you're just weighing all this stuff in. But that's the life we live nowadays with animals that are on that public private interface. And once again, just keep things on the up and up and be upfront and don't try to cheat anything or take any shortcuts, and you're going to be okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, that's really good advice. Yeah, I've had a couple landowners that I've shot bulls on public that'll let me pack down through their private or even let me drive in their access roads. And I just put in a call and said, hey, killed this bull back behind your property back in here. And they let me take him out, which was really nice. It saved me, like you say, 4 trips going up and over the way I came in. And both cases, they've let me take the bulls out. So yeah, that's been good. And then nothing makes you angrier either, at least me, is to see guys cheating the system. And I don't know, like to see guys driving on closed roads or places. And it's like, it's so frustrating because you do the right thing, you're following the rules, and you hike way back in this closed road. And then you'll have somebody that's kind of cheating and driving in some road they're not supposed to. Or like I say, sometimes the landowners, like, they'll drive on that public land, even though it's closed down to the public, or they'll let their buddies climb down. Or I've been on block management where all of a sudden the ranch owner lets his buddies drive way back in there, and I'm hiking a few miles to get to the same spot. But, in a lot of those cases, I just kind of have to walk away and just go hunt a different area. Like there's ups and downs in bow hunting, and sometimes you just gotta swallow it and say, but sometimes, man, it's frustrating when you see guys breaking the rules or going where they're not supposed to. And some guys just feel like the rules don't apply to them and able to go everywhere. I think the federal agencies and the wardens have done a good job of stopping a lot of that stuff. Like I heard stories back in the day at Eastern Montana, like, and I, not to throw shade at out-of-staters, but out-of-staters that would just show up and just shoot deer wherever they found them in whoever's field out there. And I do feel like the wardens and the game agencies have really curbed a lot of the illegal stuff because ultimately they're stealing from us, us guys that are following the rules, us guys that have applied for these tags, so I really think it's good. And I don't think a lot of guys are getting away with a lot of stuff nowadays, with the social media and things. I mean, such a shame that giant deer in Wyoming that's under investigation, and some of the things that are that we're hearing about here lately. But I do think it's a good thing, man, that they're following up and making sure guys are following the rules. And it seems like guys only get away with it for so long before it catches up to them.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting dynamic. And I was, I'm glad you kind of brought it up because I was thinking about this on this last hunt. And, there's a lot of open roads, side-by-side trails, and we utilize them. I mean, every year I utilize side-by-side trails. And so you have all these conflicting, I was going to say morally, but it's not really morally. It's just ethically, like what's the right thing to do. And, you don't want to tear up the land. And when you're going up some of these trails and you run into spots where maybe it's impassable because the road's so mucky or whatever, and you're going up the hill. But if you just drive off the road in the grass, it's fine. And you're going to get up there, no problem. But you're creating another track and you're causing more impact on the land more so. And so you're like, you hate to do that. And then you see tracks that are in the snow from guys that, they get up there and they just seem to just be driving wherever they want, once they're up there. And you're like, dadgummit, this is the type of stuff that ruins it for the rest of us. And, there's snow up there and you're like, okay, are they actually doing any damage though? And then you factor in that, okay, I mean, look at this place. It's been so overgrazed by cattle or sheep that is somebody driving off road going to actually make a difference when, it's the grazing that's really destroying the land. This is my opinion, just from what I've witnessed. And so you have these like conflicting, scenarios that are going through your head and what you're witnessing out there. And of course it's like, yeah, you can get a ticket for driving off road, but yet, these cattle can destroy this open range. And what I mean by that is by grazing, and then cheatgrass comes in because it's so overgrazed or weeds or whatever. And so it's being ruined by grazing, but yet they'll write you a ticket for driving a side by side, off the track. And so, it's a tough place to live in, right? And it's pretty simple though. Like, so on BLM, on the map, like on their open road map, like these roads like have numbers, right? And they're considered like designated routes. You'll see that on BLM, designated BLM route, 6940 or whatever for that road number. And then, technically that's the only stuff that you're allowed to drive on. But then you get up there and there's all these other established tracks from over the decades that are there, and they're everyday use, and it's not really patrolled or seen that way as driving off road, or like you said, you get in behind some public or whatever that's only accessible to the private ranch, or somebody that wants to work really hard to get in there, like some of the instances that you're talking about. And these ranchers, they're driving all over creation on this public back there and creating tracks, and so it's like, kind of a double standard there with what's going on. And you think like, okay, I mean, so these ranchers, they're paying for a grazing lease to be back there, so they kind of have the exception that they get to drive wherever they want. And they're like, well, we're spraying weeds and we're taking care of this land, so we got to drive wherever we want. And it's like, okay, I get that where you're coming from, but that technically doesn't make it right. And so it's just a gray area, right? And still you just have to, I hope everybody has a good sense of grounded ethics and tries to do the right thing. And dude, 100%, I'm not going to drive off an established road with my dirt bike or a side by side if I can at all help it. But if there's like a natural barrier, or the road's too muddy for me to get up, am I going to turn around and go home for the day because I can't drive up that particular track right there, like on that track? Or am I going to just get off on the grass a little bit and drive around? That's what everybody's going to do. And so there's all these little small intricacies of ethics that we encounter all the time while hunting. And while a lot of them are gray, once again, I think just being grounded and try to make the right decisions, on a day by day basis for wherever hunt you're at is what really matters. So, the land of public land hunting, it's a realm that we live in, and it can be tough to navigate. But I think if you have a clear conscience, meaning you're trying to follow the law and you're being upfront, open, and honest, you're not going to have any issues. And like you said, guys aren't getting away. You're not getting away with it anymore. Mm-hmm. Like the times have changed. And like you said, guys shooting bucks or whatever in farmers' fields on private back in the day, back in the 80s, 90s, nobody cared. But now, I mean, it's a huge deal. So yeah, you better know where you're at.
Yeah, a lot of it's gray, but a lot of it's black and white. And you have to follow the rules, even if they don't make sense, like bicycles in the wilderness. Like, I'd love to be able to ride a bike in wilderness and be able to shrink it a bit, and it's not putting any more impact than horses or anything, but you can't ride them. That's the law. So, well, that's the law. I got to obey it, And so, yeah, I think you can kind of black and white things, or like you driving, like if you were to drive in the tracks, you might still make it up there, but you're going to make that situation way worse, and you're going to cut up that road and make those ruts so much worse for that road. And I feel like those established roads, like I think that's the law of the land, that to drive on the side of it during a huge mud pit or whatever is actually the better way to go, for the land. And I do like that public land is multi-use. That we do have wildernesses, that it does just take foot effort, like to get in there. You have to backpack and carry all your things in there, or be on horseback. Like, I like having places like that. I also like places that I have access, that I have road access to be able to get in and get into this mountain range. Because if I had to hike from the highway the 35 miles, like, nobody would ever use any of that land. So I think it's great that land is multi-use like that. And I think the deal is just not abusing it. And that's the same thing with like private landowners that allow public access in some of these different programs, like the block management program and things. It's just like, you just really respect their land, and they're not making much money from this, but they're allowing public access. It's like, man, read through those bylaws, make sure that you're not parking in front of their gates, leave their gates like you found them, follow the rules in these places, because if you start breaking the rules, that's when we all get it taken away from us. And so yeah, I think you just have to build, like you say, kind of like a moral compass of what's right and what's wrong and what you're going to do, and not cut any corners, and then you're good. And those wardens, they really want to work with you, and they really respect the guys that are following the rules and trying to do right by the landscape. So as long as you do that, like, you're in pretty good shape, whatever you do. And yeah, and I think it's great. Like some of these public access spots on private land, they open up a lot of opportunity for us hunters. So yeah, really respect it, follow the rules, read through them. If they don't want you camping on their land, you don't camp there. And like too, just putting in a phone call goes such a long way with landowners, with agencies. I've got one spot, be hunting soon, that they you got to pay to park, and then once you park in this spot, then you can go through and you can access public land that you can actually hunt back there, but they don't allow overnight camping in through there. Well, I want to overnight camp, but I can call the agency and talk with somebody there and run a check by them and just pay per day that I'm going to be parked there, and now all of a sudden I'm allowed to park there. I'm following the rules, like nobody's worried about me, and I'm not going to get in trouble. So just like a phone call goes like such a long ways in today's day and age. And the reality is like, you are going to run in, to some issues with access, or you really got to do your homework. I love that tip about the cadastral that you gave, Dan. I think that's a great one about access. And ultimately, this is for the enjoyment. Like, I want to feel good when I'm hunting a spot. Like, I don't want to feel like I've gone through a gray area, or like I want to feel like I'm in the right, or I want to know that I'm in the right, done my research, know that I can drive this road to where, yeah, I mean, I definitely don't want any conflict or anything, but if I do, I've got a map, printed out. I've got my Onyx there. I know where I'm standing and where I'm hunting because I've done my research. And so when I hunt it, like, it's just this weight off my shoulders that I am in the right, I'm hunting the right spots, I know I'm on public ground, I've followed all the rules. Like, I don't have anything to worry about. Like, I've done everything the right way. And I think that's important to really enjoying your experience out there, because otherwise, hunting that private public, back in the olden days before OnX, I remember having to drive in my truck, and there were some dang good hunting spots, but I'd have to mark my mileage on the map and then mark my mileage in my truck. And so I know when I drive 2.3 miles, I'm going to hit that piece of public, and then I can go up into that public ground. Like, it was way more map research, but those spots were really good hunting because not everybody had OnX. But I would do that work and that map research to figure out where I was at. But yeah, I think you just follow the rules, do your research, do your homework to where you can have confidence and enjoy the spot that you're hunting.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, you don't want 1 ounce of negative feeling about that buck or bull or whatever you killed because maybe you undercut the rules a little bit, or maybe you cut a corner, or maybe you shot it 3 minutes after shooting light. You just don't want that on your conscience. It takes so much away from the experience. For me anyway, it would to the experience if you're doing that sort of thing. So yeah, no, it's very good. Yeah, I was chuckling there when you're talking about using your odometer. It's like I don't use my odometer on my truck like I used to, because you're watching the tenths of the mile. You're like, okay, we can go 6 more tenths. I think this is where we're at. And you're watching your truck, like, okay, this is the public-private boundary. Those days are over because of OnX. But yeah, the good old days, it was definitely something else.
Yeah, it sure was. Well, yeah, you're getting ready for your mule deer hunt as well, man. I'm getting ready. I got such a busy November. I think I've got 3 muley hunts lined up. It's Halloween today as we're recording this. Man, we got some good muley hunting coming up. I can't wait, man. It's going to be so fun. I kick mine off tomorrow, and then a couple, 2, 3 different trips or whatever, but it's going to be fun. Weather looks good. I kind of like it when it's not bitter cold. And for a bow hunter, I don't really like the snow that much. Like, it'll move some mule deer. You can see them a little bit better, but I hate stalking in the snow. If I am stalking in the snow, like, sometimes I can't even go on a play or go make a hunt until the afternoon, until the snow gets soft, till it's quiet enough where I can walk in it. But it sure adds the degree of difficulty. So I kind of like these early November dates for getting after them.
Absolutely. Hit the nail on the head. I'm going to start my hunt on Monday. So what is that, the 3rd? Yeah, my limited entry hunt here in Wyoming. But yeah, I'm the same way. We were hunting this migration route this last week, and the snow and the cold, and I was joking, with my buddy. I was like, "That's why I'm a bow hunter. I don't like messing with this stuff, the snow and the cold and squeaky snow, trudging around in it, and toes are getting cold." And it's I'm with you 100%. In November for the rut, like these first couple weeks, like I love like the upper 40s during the day, sunny days, 25 at night, just down freezing. It's just prime meat keeping weather too, with the temps like that, and like you said, no snow on the ground. That sure is nice too, just for stalking, like you said. So I think the forecast down here in Wyoming is looking pretty good. Just those temps, I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a busy like 2.5 weeks for me hunting deer, but my standards are high down here. I'm can't wait to see what the rut is going to offer, just for deer movement. I go shoot my bow. I haven't shot my bow in like 10 days. So that's what I'm going to do this weekend, is kind of regroup and shoot my bow and get ready for these deer hunts. But it's, tis the season, these crisp fall mornings, and you're like, oh, it's time to hunt rutting bucks. There's just some, it's hard. It's just hard to beat. And every year after, an elk season, and it's just like the timing's right, it feels right, and it's just a whole new level of being pumped, because it's like hunting season is starting all over again. Here we go.
Yeah, that's totally it, man. I can't wait. Yeah, it does look like I like hunting these places with no snow on the ground. So yeah, early November is going to be good. I do have a late November hunt that usually has snow and cold, so I'll have to change my tactics a little bit. But the rut's on fire that time of year too. So yeah, it's going to be good. Yeah, I've been shooting a bunch, bows ready to go, gear's ready to go, and so yeah, be traveling a bit. I cleaned my headlights the other day. God, those things were getting all fogged up in these older trucks. I could hardly see out of the dang thing. So I got one of those kits and kind of sanded it down, and so I can actually see at night, so I can travel. So I'm not going to hit a deer with my truck. So yeah, just trying to get all that little stuff situated, and yeah, I can't wait, man. It's going to be fun. Yeah, it's like a whole new season again. So yeah, well, send me a check-in text. I'll do the same to you. Got a backpack hunt, and then another good rut hunt that I'm really excited about. So yeah, man, it's gonna be so fun. So yeah, get after it, shoot that bow, and get after him Monday. I think your dates look pretty good.
Yeah. We'll be ready and get a couple weeks of pre-rut action. So yeah, I can't wait to see what you turn up as well. And I mean, once again, it's mule deer in Wyoming. It's a tough time, and as everybody says, oh, it wasn't as good as it was 5 years ago, or it wasn't as good as it was 10 years ago. But still, there's those diamond in the roughs that are out there, and it's just a matter of being efficient and putting the time in. So hopes are high. We'll see what we can turn up.
Yeah, same. All right, sounds good, Dan. Thanks a bunch, man.
Yeah, absolutely.